Hi, I'm Rob Boyd, an English photographer from the UK. I decided to create this podcast series talking to international photographers whose work I truly love. I realised I knew nothing about these amazing people apart from their names and their stunning work. So I created a set of hopefully entertaining questions that finds out who they are and what they love. Hi Paul, thanks for joining me.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well. Very, very well. It's exciting time at the moment. It's summertime. A lot of work going on, a lot of shooting going on. Busy in a good way.
Excellent stuff. So if you can start with your name and your Instagram name, that'd be amazing.
All right. So I am Paul Harrison, or Paul, as people call me. And my Instagram is the Paul Harrison, because I think there's a doctor in America who's Paul Harrison. So
I was going to say, surely there's only one and only Paul Harrison, but there we go.
Well, we had a fight and I won. So I'm the Paul Harrison.
Excellent stuff. So do you have a website?
I do. I did wonder whether I should have a website or not. I think often when you have a social media presence, then it's like, oh, you should have a website. And then these things cost a lot of money, particularly with Squarespace. I have to say, maybe a future sponsor, who knows? But nevertheless, that stuff's really expensive. So I do have a website. It's thepaulharrison.co.uk. But tiny bit of advice for people who are maybe starting out and heading towards intermediate: don't have a website unless you're selling something, thus can pay for the website. Don't have a website.
Yeah, good advice. And where do you live?
I live southeast London, place in Lewisham. I'm kind of Catford, Ladywell border. Southeast London.
Excellent. And where are you from originally?
Rural Norfolk, like proper farmer country, strange rural area. If I'm going back to Norfolk in a couple of days, I'm shooting agricultural shows at the moment, as you do, and it's the Norfolk show. So I grew up in a proper weird rural area.
And Norfolk's complete Latin. That's Norfolk. And
oh yeah, and particularly anytime anyone says like, oh, Norfolk, oh, I know Norfolk, and they list the Norfolk Broads and Norwich and the coast, nowhere near anywhere that I grew up at all. I grew up in an odd, flat, strange place.
Yep, fair enough. So where you are now then, if I visited you, where would you take me to shoot?
Oh, Blumenek. I'll have to go to the National Gallery, I think. It'd be kind of silly if I didn't. So I've been shooting for 5-6 years, something like that. And almost right from the start, I've been shooting just on the street, as any normal street photographer would do, but also in art galleries in London, particularly the National Gallery. The Trafalgar Square, which is just outside the National Gallery, is a classic spot that you see street photographers all the time. No one ever goes inside, apart from me, and now you, as you're visiting. It's. I've always felt a little bit absurd that I don't see more people in there.
Yeah, I always feel that things I've tried going in there with a camera, and you kind of feel like a bit of a, not a weirdo, obviously, but you feel kind of conscious being in a museum with a camera, well, especially DSLR or something.
But not even with a camera, like just the assumption is that we all like pictures. That's all photography is, and it's all painting is pictures of things. I don't see people going like, hey, I shot for the morning and then I went to a museum or a gallery. And for your international listeners, watchers, or however this podcast comes out, it's free. Just walk in the door. It's just there.
Yeah, that's what I love about London, though. I mean, how many museums are free? There's loads.
Almost all. Almost all, yeah.
Absolutely. Right, so you're the perfect person to ask this. Are any places to visit as a tourist? Obviously, being a tour guide?
For me as a tour guide, no, nowhere. For me as a tour guide, if you come to London, I think a big thing is just get out of the centre of town. London is a city of, it's a bit of a cliche, but villages. What were villages, and comes this massive city. Just get out of zone one. Or probably the biggest advice that I ever give to any tourist is just to stop a little bit. You don't race around trying to see everything. Just to spend a little bit of time, just sat outside a pub in the summer, watching the world go by. Yeah. As a tourist, I think the big thing with London is that whatever version of London you're after, whatever you're into, so maybe you're into photography, maybe you're into literature, maybe you're into 19th century literature, maybe you're into the Roman period, maybe you're a goth, maybe you're whatever. They all exist at the same time, often in the same place. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for London, quite simply.
Yeah, brilliant. So what's your favourite destination in the world? Obviously, London's a popular one.
Oh, all right. Now, I'm not thinking shoot-wise. I'm not thinking photography-wise. I'm thinking of the places that I've been to in the world and where I would, if I could click my fingers, I would go back to. So myself and my partner went to Japan 12 years ago, maybe. Some indeterminate time ago. And of all the places we went to, the place that I left a little bit of my heart there. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, called Narashima. It's a tiny little island it's in like the inland sea, Seto Inland Sea. I'm supposed to be saying all these words wrong. And essentially there was a tiny little island, a dying community, i.e. depopulation. And then some business 20, 30 years ago, whatever it might be, decided to buy up some of the island and to create art galleries there. Imagine a tiny Tate Modern that's been built into a hill with the world's best Japanese architect, but there's like 4 artworks. It's been purpose built for them, and the whole island is kind of like that. But at the same time, you've got these like Japanese grannies with their little allotment and it was rural. It's rural. You have to get like 2 trains and a ferry to get. Oh God, I can talk about Narashima for like an hour-long podcast if I have to. Yeah,
totally get that. Then, yeah, I can see why. Yeah. So, what's on your bucket list? Where would you like to visit in the world?
Oh right, now I get weird. You thought the last one wasn't weird. I would like where the very first atomic blast ever happened. So if you saw what's the film like the last few years? Was it Oppenheimer? All right, so the Trinity site where the very first atomic bomb ever went off, the first atomic blast, their experimental one. Like when it was like, will it destroy the world or not? We don't know, let's press the button. That's in the White Sands missile site near Albuquerque in the southwest of the US. And they have open days, as you do, I think twice a year. And I would love to photograph their open days. Because it's in the US, so there will probably be, I imagine, lots of Americans being like, oh wow, isn't this a great patriotic thing? At the same time, it's the most dystopian place on the planet. I would love just to spend the day with that ambiguity of like people bring their kids. Yeah. I have weird projects in my head that if when people ask like, oh, if you won the lottery, what would you do? Yeah, I get weird. I'm off to weird places straight away. Yeah, so you had to ask, and yeah, that's where I go.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I love it. So another weird question: if you could time travel, when and when would you visit?
Right, now bear in mind you're asking a tour guide here, so you're not going to get I would photograph in blah 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 answer. I would go to 30th of January 1649 Whitehall. People who don't know London, Whitehall was a street in London, but in 1649 that was a royal palace, and on that exact day, with a giant crowd on the street, we killed our king. He'd lost the English Civil War, Charles I, head off shoulders, full works. And the street photographer in me and the historian in me coincides with, can you imagine the crowd? Can you imagine being in the crowd? Can you imagine seeing, let alone this royal palace that used to be there? It's massive, like giant, like where all the political buildings now are, is where it used to be. Yeah, it's the great lost building of London, or at least one of them. Yeah, it's another weird answer. There you go.
No, no, no. You haven't wasted your one wish. So, if you could photograph anyone in history, who would you choose? Who would you shoot?
Oh, I found this weirdly tough. So with the last two answers maybe being a bit more like history and being interested in that, I thought purely for kicks, Henri Cartier-Bresson, I'd photograph him in colour and I'd crop it just to annoy him. That's cool. I just want him to shrug in a French style, just be like, "What do you do?"
Yeah, or throw something at you. I'm sure.
I just want Cartier-Bresson just to get very French and annoyed.
Love it. Amazing. Oh, so tell me a fun fact or a story about yourself.
Oh, so this one I kind of struggled with. So I'm from rural Norfolk, and the tiny little market town I'm from, weirdly, somewhere in the Middle Ages, I should have looked into this before I came on this, but somewhere in the Middle Ages was famous for the murder of small children.
Oh, wow.
There's an old medieval story called Babes in the Wood. It used to be like a folk story, and like used to be in like pantomimes and things. Like literally in the town sign where I'm from, which is a lovely little town, there's like two small children underneath the tree. And you're like, oh, that's nice. Then you look into it, and it's like 1305. The children were murdered in the forest. Welcome.
Take that the story.
It's just under the radar. It's the interesting thing. When I lived there, I was always interested in like local history, and like anytime I go back, it's a big thing my mum and I talk about. And I might do some sort of project on the town, or like, yeah. There's I'm always have various things I'm working on. Yeah. Like, have you heard of it's a photo book that was really influential years ago called Wisconsin Death Trip? Right. And it's like early American, like post-colonial sort of history of like a weird area in Wisconsin, but going back to like Victorian period, and just kind of a street photographer's eye on weird old history.
Oh, they celebrate that shit.
Yeah. I'm sure you've had similar answers from other people in previous podcasts.
Yeah. They're all roughly in. Yeah. All right, this is definitely a weird question. I know you think it's a weird one. What's your favorite word?
Word. I don't have a favorite word because I'm not 8 years old. Like, who has favorite words? But I thought, like, well, what does it actually mean? So I have a word that I use a lot. Brill. And I use it a lot if I'm replying to messages. It just means good. What I realised that I quite like about it is that I think to say something is brilliant, I think it's a British thing. I don't think you get it in other types of English.
I was thinking it was this British saying, as soon as you said it, brill,
Or even just brilliant. I don't think, so brill sounds even more weirdly British. And I like the idea of anyone who's choosing a random country, American, a small percentage might think I'm saying about the fish.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like you see, like I've just said haddock. They've got like, okay, that's a British thing, haddock. Yeah, so I'd go for brill, but yeah.
Along the same word lines, then. So teach me a new word or a saying I may not know. Obviously, I get lots of international answers.
Oh, I've got nothing. I've got nothing for you.
Really?
At all. Again, apart from it's not a new thing, but something I say an awful lot and annoy photography friends, and that is, it's a metal box with a hole in it. Because the amount of people who will be like, "Hey, this camera, that camera, and there's nothing
Oh
wrong with
God.
that," or is
Yeah.
there? Um,
Yeah.
that for me, my whole enjoyment of photography
Yeah.
is based around photographs, not about cameras.
Yeah.
So
It's a light box.
yeah,
Box it.
yeah,
Box that
and
brings in light, and what you do with that light is exactly that.
yeah. But at the same time, it sounds like I'm being obtuse, which I am in a slight way. But at the same time, it's important for us to remember the very miraculous basics of this, like the early history of photography. There's a metal box, there's a hole in it, and how you can change the amount of light that goes in and the sensitivity to it. That's photography. Hello, done. But at the same time, like a photographers who are like, "Oh, I have this thing," I go, "Oh, you bought a metal box. That's nice."
That's amazing. Yeah, that's made my day. That. Right. Okay. So when did photography click for you? Obviously, excuse the pun, but what moment did you realise it could take a good
Right.
photo?
So for me, I started about 2 months, 7 weeks, whatever, before the pandemic. When it clicked was pretty much day one. Rather, I bought my camera, I bought my lens, but the first time when I went out, which is, I think it's important to remember how terrifying that was. It's not as if it's not terrifying now, to be fair, but going out and then, here's the important thing for me. Coming home and looking at those photographs, and then there was one photograph for me that stood out. It's the only one on that I took that day that I then posted. And for people who were just listening to this rather than watching any sort of video thing, it's two people. They're outside Charing Cross railway station in London. The adult looks early 20s, but it's like he could be 18, he could be 30, and I don't know. It's a bit undefined. And he's holding a boy of 6 years old, 7 years old, I don't know. And it's like, is it his son? Are they brothers? And it's not a great photograph. Don't get me wrong. If you can see it now, you'll know that it's not a great photograph. But the colours in his coat and the boy's hat are similar to the roundel, i.e. the insignia for London Underground, which is also in the photograph. And it's me coming home and going like, oh, there's an ambiguity to that. And that's the big, often a very big important word. The what is that? What's their relationship? Who is he? If they're brothers, they're so close. Their faces are so close to each other. They're brothers. But it's also me realizing that it's not good and why it's not good, because the camera is somehow down by my knees. You know?
Yeah. But it resonates. It resonates with you, and it's got a story. So that's what I'm about.
It has potential stories. I agree with Winogrand, the whole thing of photography when it comes to stories. If anything, it's a uniquely bad art form for encapsulating a story. It's I don't know what the story is. You know, film is good for stories, literature is good for stories, poetry is good for stories. Photography with its 500th of a second is like, what's the story?
So this is going to be hard for you. I know it is. So your favorite 3 photos you've taken, and why do you like them?
Well, I'm afraid to say that my hearing is very, very bad, so I didn't quite hear you properly. And I thought you've just said, "Hey, Paul, what's your favourite 3 photographs which are in your zine, which you've just released?"
Well, that's
Sorry, hearing's bad.
yeah. So I'll roll with that.
Oh,
You better describe them then.
I'll meet you halfway. Why not? Key photograph from the zine, the one that I certainly like the most. has a similarity in its ambiguity and almost a generational ambiguity. What are the relationships and everything with the previous photograph? So I've not really developed. So that's one thing we've learned. And it's 5 young people. They must be in their teens. They're definitely in their teens. And they are cadets of some sort. Oh, by the way, my zine is all the week after the Queen died. By the way, any Camilla fans, seemingly she's fine. Hopefully. We're recording this some months before this, by the way. So if Camilla is now dead, then this gets awkward very quickly. But anyway. But they're in their uniforms, their dress uniforms. They're on Westminster Bridge. And all 5 of them, you can see bits of their faces. So all of them are characters in their own right. So you don't get like a weird bit of a random person. And I was photographing them. It was the time when there was the massive queue that was going to see the Queen's body in state, Elizabeth II's body in state. And maybe they were taking part in the funeral somehow, which was like a couple of days' time. And they were either getting ready to or just had been interviewed by someone, I think, with a TV camera. So they were all still kind of stood all together. And I'm trying to photograph them, particularly as one of them looks really intense. Like if I looked through all my photographs and went like, which one of these people in my photographs would one day be the fascist leader of the world? It's this one young man. He's I don't know if he's looking at my camera or he's looking maybe someone over my shoulder. But then walking past at the same time is this old guy, this pensioner, who was actually probably lived through all this stuff. And Elizabeth II dying actually means something more to him. But compared to these young people looking very stern and severe. But yeah, it's this sort of ambiguity. It's kind of what I'm after. Again, that second one, so when the Queen died, I felt that it was an opportunity for a lot of adults to explain death to children. She was in her 90s, no one was shocked or surprised or anything like that. So I have a photograph of where they were leaving the flowers in Green Park. Seas of flowers. It was just a stunning, stunning scene with dappled light coming through the trees. There was one giant bed of flowers, which was in the light, still a bit dappled. But anyone who was looking at them wasn't in the light. So there's one young boy, and he's looking at it in this kind of, he's trying to work out what this whole thing means. It just kind of makes me feel something just trying to explain it. Yeah. But that kind of like, what is this? But at the same time, it's colour photography. So she died in September. So the light was really good. Like, it sounds awful, but yeah. The third one is I was lucky that my tour guide knowledge very much sort of overlapped with being a street photographer. That I knew where certain events were happening in that week. And if I stand there for a certain amount of time, 3 hours later, this thing will happen. Or what the process would be after the death of a monarch. You know? I kind of sort of knew that stuff. So there's a photograph of the Royal Guards, who red tunics, bearskin hats, and everything like this, at St. James Palace. And it's something that I talk about every 2 days at work. Like what happens on the death of a monarch. And then it happened. Yeah, kind of the cross-section between street photography and documentary photography. And I was maybe uniquely placed between them when that event happened.
Yeah. So, your background knowledge really helped to, set things, and your patience. 3 hours later, it's like, whew.
Well, that compared to people who did the queue, it was like 36 hours. It was, for me though, it was one of these events where if you had a camera, if you were a street photographer in London, and you had a job that allowed you to just suddenly take time off work. See, for me as a tour guide, there were no tours for a week. Change the Garter was cancelled and blah, 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 blah. And it was very, very hard to get around central London unless you knew what you were doing. I was out every day.
Yeah, great project, and a great moment to, be part of as well. Even though it's somber, it was one you only experienced once.
Well, I talk about history as a living, and history was happening where I was. So,
Stuff, love it. So, what advice would you give a new photographer if I can put my teeth back in?
oh blimey, work on your taste, and also work on ignoring bad influences. Right. So inevitably, I have an agenda and an opinion on that, if that's the case. So work on your taste. When people say buy photo books rather than cameras, they mean it, and they mean it for good reason. The greats are the greats for good reason, and also photo books are an incredible and wonderful resource. YouTube, tutorial wise, is really, really great, but just remember that photography is photographs. 99% of photography, either the YouTube space or people who are going to give you advice, really they're selling cameras. For me, that very, very first photograph that I took on the day one, and I went like, that's not awful and I can learn from it. I kind of forgot about my camera at that point. I just bought it, so I was excited about it, but straight away that was superseded by a photograph, this generally rectangular box. Just get obsessed with photographs. Forget everything else that people tell you is photography. It's not. Photographs is.
Excellent advice. Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. So, obviously, I'm going to ask you what you got next, what your photography goals are, and what are they?
Series of zines, essentially. So the recent one, The Queen is Dead, very much take its name from the Smiths album. In fact, there's less than subtle design things in the zine. If you know the Smiths album, you'll see fonts and you'll be like, oh, hold on a second here, I know what he's done. Yeah, well, yeah. Why there's no photo book or zine already called The Queen is Dead, considering it happened 2 years ago, I don't know. So I thought I need to dive in there and do it straight away. But yeah, this is a series. So my first one came out last year, my first self-released one, and there's plans for 2 more next year. So I'm going to do 2 zines a year. When we're recording this, I am off shooting weird and wonderful events at the moment, and that will be a zine for next spring.
Some of those photos I saw the other day were just, oh my God. They're just the places you get yourself into. It's great.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get out of London. I think that's the bit. Or rather, I live in London, so I can shoot in London. That's already there. I'm just trying to have something else.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Excellent. Oh, I learned a lot today. So thanks for being here. Absolutely brilliant. I will let you go to your evening, and thanks for being my guest.